Redditors with real life butterfly effect stories. What happened and what was the series of events and outcomes? My sister's muffler fell off her car on the way to a family function. It wasn't a big deal, but it meant that she could no longer lend it to my mom later that week as it would be in the shop for repairs. My mom had already been told she could use the car and had already made a doctor's appointment. My uncle volunteered to drive her instead. This minor change in plans altered when my uncle and aunt would be able to leave the city by a few hours. They were supposed to go to their farm, but instead my aunt waited at her mother's while my uncle was dropping mom off. My aunt's mother had a heart attack and would have been completely alone that afternoon if not for my sister's car trouble. Because my aunt was there, she was able to call the paramedics and they were able to save her. Too long. Didn't read. I overdrafted and caused 4 marriages and 5 babies. Longer version. I was just out of high school and new in town with no job. I was living off what savings I had left and my account went below zero without me knowing. I was overdraft charged like 10 times and owed $300 plus. I went down to the bank, spoke with a teller, and she ended up being a lifesaver. She worked with me and got all the charges removed. On top of getting the charges removed, we got to talking about my situation and she said that her son worked at a local restaurant and she would help me get a job. She was a woman of her word and by the end of the week I was working full time. Fast forward, I meet a cool dude who worked there. We became friends. I introduced him to my sister. They fell in love, got married and had 2 kids. His best friend came into town for the wedding and I introduced him to my roommate at the time. They fell in love, got married and had 2 babies. I also got my best friend a job at the restaurant where he met a girl working there. They fell in love, got married and had a kid. Right before I left I got my roommate a job at the restaurant, where he met a customer, fell in love, got married and had a kid. As a bonus, my best friend, who I helped get the job, repaid the favor and got me a job at a different restaurant, where I met a girl, fell in love and got married. Oh hey Cupid, how's it going? I was going out to grab pizza and a case of beer for me and my roommate, but he texted me that he had a stomach thing, so I walked to a restaurant and ordered dinner at the bar and met a girl there, and now we are married and have 2 kids because my roommate had diarrhea. When I was 18 I had a girlfriend, and her older brother owned a small company. He said to me, you know, I think you'd be pretty good at this job. I'm 34 now, and have a legitimate career that I love because I dated a girl for a bit. I also had a cat for the better part of that time period because of the girlfriend. I'm a cat person now. This happened 2 days ago. It was early in the morning and as I'm about to leave for work when my mom reminded me that I forgot my water bottle on the table while I was walking out. For whatever reason I decided to go leave my backpack in the car and then walk back into the house for the water bottle. Well, that took about maybe 10 seconds total. It started to rain heavily on my way to work and couldn't see very well, but I noticed the brake lights of the cars ahead stopping suddenly and some moving off onto the shoulder and decided to slow down and put the hazard lights on for the people behind to slow down. Well, turns out everyone was braking because a 4-5 car accident had just happened seconds before. All the cars were scattered across the highway, spread across the left-right shoulders, and another had hit the crash barrier. Basically a total bad mess. The drivers were still in their cars, I guess, processing what had just happened. After seeing it I immediately started to think that if I hadn't gone back for the water bottle there's a chance that I could have easily been in the accident or at least even closer to it. It tripped me out for the rest of the day. I procrastinated one day in high school by watching a foreign musical on YouTube. I ended up trying to learn the lyrics and eventually the language. That led me to discovering the field of linguistics, which I'm now majoring in. I don't know what I'd be doing now had I actually started doing my homework that day instead. Everything that ever happened in my life is directly attributable to my friend using Microsoft Flight Simulator to hide his internet corn searching. It was the dial-up days, and the images took a while to load. So he ran Flight Sim in the other window so his parents wouldn't suspect anything. We were 10 or 11 and I was more interested in the game than the con. That led to me buying the game myself and playing it pretty religiously. Then I decided to go to college to become a pilot. While there I met a friend going into airline management. I graduated and flew airplanes professionally. Then I got laid off. That friend in management? He knew someone that worked at my local airline, headquartered where I lived. I had been applying but someone kept rejecting my resume. He met with his friend and walked my resume in. I got the job, working for the person who had been rejecting my resume. After a year I got recalled to my pilot job, so I asked for career advice from her. She told me I should stay in management. I had a bright future. Little did she know my bright future was as her husband. We've been married almost 6 years and have 2 kids. Have lived all around the world and experienced amazing things. All because I was more interested in flight sim than dial-up internet con. Almost everything that has happened in my life for the past 8 years is a direct result of me literally flipping a coin to decide between 2 colleges. I play the sport I do, have the friends I do, am dating the person I am, and very nearly every other aspect of my life is because a nickel landed on heads. Just last month, a friend of mine told me a story from his recent heartbreak. He, let's call him Mickey, had been with this girl, Minnie, for almost 4 years when out of nowhere, she told him she is leaving him and moving out. He had no idea the relationship was in jeopardy, but she dipped. Anyway, a few weeks go by. Mickey is hanging out with a co-worker of his with who he had just recently met and ends up back at his place just to hang out. On the fridge, he sees a note in Minnie's handwriting. The note detailed several issues in Mickey and Minnie's relationship, and so Mickey asks his new friend where he found this note. Turns out, this new buddy had gone to the same music festival as Mickey and Minnie a few months prior. The friend had found the note on the ground of the parking lot and thought, wow, what a sad and angry note. I'm going to keep this because it's so raw and interesting. The next day, Minnie came over to pick up some of her things. Mickey produced the note and it led to a long tear-filled conversation about their relationship and what went wrong. They didn't end up back together, because despite the pseudonyms, this is no Disney story. However, the resulting discussion helped them both achieve closure in a meaningful way. All because a random co-worker found and kept her discarded note in a festival parking lot. I didn't say she was crazy, I said she was freaking goofy. If my biological mom hadn't asked her parents to watch me for a couple hours and then left town, I wouldn't have had the incredible and privileged life that I was given through adoption. My younger half-brothers were raised by our biological mom and they are a total freaking mess. I'm more of a mom to them than their actual mom, and I would have been an absolute wreck also if she'd kept me. Instead I was given an amazing private education, all the sports and musical adventures, and most important a healthy, loving home with 2 parents who taught me that just because you share blood doesn't mean you love, and just because you didn't give birth to a child doesn't mean you can't be their parent. Received an incredibly high-paying job offer to run our biggest competitor's team. Told my boss, even though I loved my job, but it was more than double what I was making. Boss agreed to a reasonable raise, still not near the offer. I decided to stay because I genuinely loved my team co-workers, and the money wasn't enough to leave that happy place. In exchange, I had to take up another account that meant a business trip I didn't have in the plans. Went on that trip and met my future husband. Couple of years later, we went on our honeymoon at a new resort in St. Lucia. Ran into someone I knew from homework. Turns out, the team that I'd been given the job offer for had made so much money that they had booked the same resort to celebrate. I sat there and went, wow. Life is nuts. Would have ended up there, either way. Entering middle school, I had to choose between foreign language or music. I made my decision. My mother came into my room later that night to make sure I was certain in my choice. I chose music, which led me to pilot training, to radio, to my ex-wife, my kids, Massachusetts, twice, my new partner and a career in IT. I can trace my entire adult life to a decision I made in 5th grade. Nearly every single friend I have in college is because one day in my gen ed health class we had to pick a seat that would become our seat for the semester. When I came in there weren't many seats left, and the people I sat next to ended up becoming my best friends and introduced me to all of my other friends in one way or another. Mom died when I was 3. If she hadn't died, my children wouldn't exist. The short version. My dad wouldn't have remarried and we wouldn't have moved and I wouldn't have met my husband. The source of my deepest grief also gave me my greatest joy. That's all for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is simply watch the videos. But if you really want to see the channel thrive, subscribe, like, comment, add to favorites, add to playlist, and share with friends. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Reddit and Insta. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you with tomorrow's upload.